Go on, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous.
You dirty.
Go on, again.
You dirty.
What a clever boy.
What a rotter.
Well, that's it for tonight.
Welcome to the first of our series of the Best of the London Weekend show. This week we're going to show you our historic programme about the Sex Pistols and punk rock, first put out last November. Then punk had just crept up in the music press and only one or two bands like the Sex Pistols and Clash were getting written about. Since our show, the Sex Pistols have signed with 3 different record companies, released 3 records, one of which was banned by the BBC, reached #1 in the charts, insulted Bill Grundy, and finally done something which seemed highly unlikely last November, appeared on Top of the Pops. But let's turn the clock back to the beginning of it all, when we went to talk to punk fans at a Sex Pistols gig in Soho's Notre Dame Hall. Well, the first thing you notice is that punk rock fans look as devastating as their music sounds. Torn clothes are held together with safety pins. There's lots of black leather and bizarre hair, and the whole idea is to shock outsiders.
Saying we're not going to take this anymore, we're not going to take the shit people are dishing out. In that sense it's violent, but it isn't hurting people, it isn't really hurting people. It's just some of the bloody fools that come along and see it, you know, and react against it.
I went to see Led Zeppelin film last week. You know, Peter Grant could beat me up, but I fell asleep 4 rows from the front.
You don't yawn, you don't have to pay £5, and you're not one of 10,000 people.
What's your dress made from?
You know, you feel one of the crowd.
What do you do?
What do I do? Typing.
You're not a mouse, you know, like Mike Oldfield fans, you know?
It's a different ball game now. It's all over that. It's all over.
I asked the Sex Pistols why they thought pub rock had failed to catch on.
Most of their music though was just based around old standards, like Bees Make Honey and bands like that. They just played everybody else's songs that everybody been playing for like 15 years. There's a couple of bands like the Kilburns, really good.
They were all mostly country and western and rhythm and blues. And what the hell good juice is that, man?
What was needed was a style of music that was as easy to play as pub rock, but rejected the past and had a new identity of its own.
What musicians do you write? I mean, who do you think is a good singer?
I don't. I don't have any heroes. They're all useless. Well, there's no bands around, is there? None. None that are accessible.
Well, before you...
Unless you pay a £5 to see them, and then you can't see them.
And what sort of people came to see you in the beginning?
Well, no one knew us at the beginning.
It was just whoever was there when we turned up. Because we used to turn up with our equipment and just like crash in and do the gigs. Nobody knew we was playing until we got there. We didn't even know actually.
Well, you reckon that was the only way to get a gig, was just to turn up first? And...
Yeah, that's how we can get gigs.
Fucking pushing.
Still
can't get them. No, sure.
How come
Come on, Johnny.
No.
What, when you stood up and started singing the first time, what happened? I mean...
Oh, John, go on.
It was wonderful.
No, come on.
People loved me. They threw flowers.
Well, look, I saw you the 6th time, and people were quite shell-shocked.
Well, then you know yourself, don't you?
But what sort of people come to see
People at
you?
home though, Johnny.
I don't know, just bored people. Bored out their brains with hippies.
What's this thing you got against hippies?
They're complacent.
You were just attacking Top of the Pops and the sort of bands that are on there. What, do you think they're relevant to the kids 16, 17?
Of course they're not. Relevant to their mums and dads, but that's about all.
What about bands like Rod Stewart?
What about him?
Mums and dads, yeah.
He's all round, isn't he? All round entertainment.
He's an old
Things really started to move for the Sex Pistols when they were spotted by promoter Ron Watts, who gave them a booking at the 100 Club in Oxford Street.
I saw them at High Wycombe, and it was interesting because they really managed to upset the crowd, or most of the crowd, and they had some of their followers with them who looked like people I'd never seen before in my life.
What did they look like?
Oh, amazing. They had this multicoloured hair, and they had clothes on which had been ripped to pieces and put back together with safety pins. And it was very bizarre. It's beyond anything that I'd seen.
Beyond anything that had hit High Wycombe before?
Yeah, probably since as well.
If they weren't on the dole, would they be your fans?
Well, I mean, if there was jobs, then they wouldn't be on the dole. And maybe we'd be singing about love and kissing or something.
So the new groups claim they're singing about the situations that they and their fans find themselves in. Well, are they? The Sex Pistols' first single is aggressively called Anarchy in the UK. But what do they mean by anarchy?
What do you mean? Do you mean you actually want to destroy them, or you want to...
Wipe them out. He wants their autograph.
Complacent, apathetic old walk up and down and do nothing and complain about everything. And watch Top of the Pops and send their boring little letters into Melody Maker week after week. That's what I want to get rid of.
I actually want to get rid of it, though.
Push them out.
Destroy them, eh?
Destroy them one way or another.
Just replace them with
Not
something
violence. Get rid of them.
But don't you get off on causing fights?
Where you heard that from?
Gosh, it's really
Rubbish. No, we're not.
It's not violence, it's just excitement causes it most of the time, you know. When we're playing, people get excited and worked up.
That's because people aren't even used to people standing up and jumping around. They just want them to sit down all the time. And as soon as anything other than that happens, they get really kind
It's
of shocked.
considered violent.
Yeah,
these
it's
days
cool.
you
If
clap
someone
your
stands
hands.
up there and goes, yeah, it's...
It's
Go
a
on,
riot.
look, he's starting.
Push him
Go on,
down.
get him out.
The usual.
But when the hysteria that always surrounds a new fashion, be it clothes or music, dies down, what's left? And is the much publicised violence at punk rock gigs really any worse than at other equivalent events? So far, the punk scene seems to have avoided the premeditated confrontations of the Teddy Boys and of the Mods and Rockers. Is Johnny Rotten the new David Bowie, or will all his tough lyrics and aggression just look dated next year? Right now, the punk musicians can make out that they're just the same as their fans, because most of them still are, and they can sing about getting rid of the establishment because they're not part of it. But what happens if they do make it and get big and successful? What would success do to Johnny Rotten?
I mean, the day Johnny Rotten goes back on the words he writes in his songs is the day he dies, and I know that for a fact. So it's a ridiculous question to ask. You know, they're just very, very committed. They're in this band because they're committed. They formed it. It's the reason they're the whole founders of the new scene in music, because they thought, we're bored with what's happening, we're going to do something. That's why they are the best band in it, because they're the originators.
Don't accept the old order. Get rid of it.
What do you think about bands like the Stones?
I don't. I don't even consider them a band. They're more like a business.
What a business.
Yeah, but surely by making a record, you're on the way to becoming part of the system.
No.
Not if you don't let yourself.
But supposing your record's a success,
Yeah.
I mean, which there are big chance it will be.
Oh, God.
And
Yeah,
okay,
it's the
everyone-
usual.
Supposing you make a lot of money, how are you going to be different from the Stones?
I don't need a Rolls Royce. I don't need a house in the country. I don't need to live in the south of France. I'm happy as I am, and I'm going to carry on.
Finsbury Park with these man.
Don't live in Finsbury Park.
How do you react to your group's reputation as being the most revolting in the country?
I find it very amusing. There's no way it's a bad example. It's an extremely good example.
And yet it's said that you're sick on stage, you spit at the audience and so on. I mean, how can this be a good example to children?
Well, people are sick everywhere. People are sick and fed up of this country, telling them what to do.
But not getting paid for it.
Pardon?
But not getting paid for putting on that sort of public show.
Well, nor are we. We ain't even being allowed to play.
Makes you sick, innit?
In fact, you're acting as spokesman for the group today.
Yes, indeed.
Have you stopped them from talking to us?
Not at all. They're just so disgusted by having to answer so many questions about something so simple.
Do you feel the publicity following the Thames Television interview has been damaging, or do you think it's helped you?
I don't think it's been damaging, far from it. Whether it's helping us is another matter. The point is, people are getting very discontented by the fact that kids who have bought and purchased tickets of these venues that are now being cancelled are having to travel further afield to see the band of their choice.
What sort of future do you see a band like the Sex Pistols having? A long future?
I do indeed. I think at least they're standing up and not tolerating any form of censorship in their act. And in that sense, it's exhilarating a lot of young kids around the country and giving them confidence to stand up and say what they want.
Would you not agree in any way that the packed halls which you're playing to wherever you can get a concert launched are entirely due to the bad publicity which you've had?
Not at all. Many dates were sold out long before.
How do you react to the reputation that your group is the most revolting in the country?
Look, our group is creating a generation gap for the first time in 5 years in this country, and a lot of people are feeling genuinely threatened by it. If the kids want to buy the record, it's called Anarchy in the UK, it's out in the shops, they can make their own decisions. And their mothers, they can ask them to equally make their decision about it. And if the mothers care anything about their young kids, they should be up in arms about having counsellors, of which they're paying taxes to be angry with them about not allowing their kids to go in the concerts and making their own choice.
But let's be absolutely frank about it. Do they enjoy being known as a revolting group?
Every young kid finds enjoyment in being known as revolting.
Dr. Nutchins, how come that the Sex Pistols, with their extraordinary reputation, are playing in Leeds Polytechnic tonight when they've been banned virtually everywhere else?
The only people who could really answer that is the Students' Union, which organises these kind of events. You may think this odd, and there are times when I do, but by the Constitution and the Articles of Government of the Polytechnic, I have no authority over what the Students' Union does. I mean, I am very carefully controlled, I may say, but the Students' Union is an autonomous body which handles its own affairs and its own money. So if they want to have these people here, about whom I know nothing, but they sound to me, as pure and disgusting as most of these people do, if they want it there, it is only the students themselves who could change that plan. The only thing where it affects me is, of course, the use of the building. And if something odd happens and the building is wrecked or destroyed or damage is done, and certainly if anybody's hurt, then of course I instantly have to step in.
Well, of course, it's often been said that nobody ever went bust underestimating public taste. Would you say that's true of students at Leeds Polytechnic?
Oh, Leeds Polytechnic, like every other institution of higher education in this country, is exactly symptomatic of the population as a whole. Students are no different from anybody else. This is a principle in this country, that people should have a higher education if they want to do so and have the qualifications to enter it. Students are just as ordinary, nasty, wicked, revolting as anybody else. They are also as nice and as friendly and cheerful and optimistic as everybody else. And a lot of them are. There happens to be a particular group who feel this way about it. Okay, I think it's the students themselves who would have to make that decision.
I believe, in fact, by some extraordinary coincidence, you're performing the Messiah in Leeds Polytechnic tonight also.
Yes, that actually is, and even more oddly, such financing as the Messiah needs, it does in fact come from the Students' Union. But the Messiah is being performed actually in another building in the Polytechnic, and its staff and students, there's quite a big choir, about 80 or 90. It's been rehearsing all yesterday afternoon. And it will do actually rather a good performance of most of the Messiah. It's an extraordinary thing. I mean, I suppose that by the evening, there will be two great sort of streams of prayer going out from Leeds Polytechnic, one upwards and the other, I suppose, down or maybe sideways.
The summer of 77, the summer of the Jubilee, a time when the nation united in spontaneous gestures of patriotism. Time when the then top 20 record charts were dominated by this original version of the national anthem by the Sex Pistols. The summer of 77 was also the summer of punk. Despite a ban by the BBC pop network Radio 1, the Sex Pistols' loyal tribute topped the charts in Jubilee week. And in the King's Road, Chelsea, the exotic punk fans mystified the tourists with clothes and makeup even more bizarre than their music. But to the music business itself, they represented something far more significant. Nothing less than the first twitch of life in 10 years. Offensive, outrageous, but potentially profitable. As far as the general public was concerned, punk first surfaced in the autumn of 1976, when the Sex Pistols with lead singer Johnny Rotten suddenly made punk music front-page news. They outraged pretty well everyone by what seemed a string of gratuitous and mindless obscenities. But what the headline writers didn't realise was that punk wasn't just a publicity gimmick. It already had a steadily building audience amongst young people, and they felt that punk was radically different from the existing rock music establishment.
Really, woman? Come on, I'm over it. On the way in here.
Not that much violence, but every Saturday, you know, the Teds come down here and the punks come down here. You know, they sort of group together and, you know, there's clashes and things like that, but I think it's a bit blown up, really.
But do you think the press is the same? It's rather strange.
I know, because it's been commercial. I like to be like everybody else. I suppose I'm an extrovert. I like to walk down the road and everybody look at me and things like that, but...
Using amphetamines and things like that, drugs in it.
Yeah, well, people use them every now and then, I suppose, if they want to, but, you know, they don't use it that much. I mean...
I know coffee on the links. We've had enough.
Why not?
We're right in the, you know, knives on me or anything like that.
Did you? Did you have any knives?
No, well, they nicked me, wouldn't they? A knife on me, right? Or any chains or anything like that.
And when did they pick you up, walking along the street?
Yeah, just because, you know, just because you're walking in the middle of the road, like.
What, do you come here for a bit of a stir?
No, buy some clothes.
You don't come here to stir anything up?
No, just the Teddy boys always start on me and I steam into them.
What's the cause of the fight?
Why? Because I don't like them.
You just don't like them? But you're both English?
Yeah.
It's a bit stupid, isn't it?
No, it's good.
Yeah?
Now they start on me and I like to start on them, don't I? Yeah. Like, they give me some mean looks.
Yeah. Next Saturday?
Yeah.
I'll probably see you
here. Yeah, dead or alive. All right, see ya.
Righto, mate.
In 1976, before punk burst on the scene, we made a programme about the music papers. At that time, Melody Maker's circulation was on the decline, and I asked their editor, Ray Coleman, why he thought this was.
The lack of a superstar at the moment, and since the Bay City Rollers came up and helped us all gain sales, all the music papers have dropped in sale, and we've suffered along with the rest.
Now both New Musical Express and Melody Maker are looking for new editors. Ray Coleman is taking a higher management job, and I asked him last week whether the new wave had supplied the sales he was looking for.
Sales have gone very, very well for all the music papers in the last few months. Oddly enough, they're still climbing for Melody Maker, even though the punk explosion has subsided, I think. But I think that it gave a terrifically needed shot in the arm to the music scene, and is still having an impact.
When the new wave came along, a lot of the fans felt very strongly about the establishment music press. And one thing they reacted against was newspapers like Melody Maker, and they started their own fanzines. Now, do you think that the fanzine thing will continue, or have you kind of picked up those readers anyway?
I think that the fanzine thing was important, but I think it's run its time, and I think they're all pegging out gracefully now. It was important while it lasted, and I think we have picked up all the readers who were going to be serious about liking music and wanted to go beyond worshipping the Sex Pistols only or the Clash only.
The Pistols are helping kids to think. That's why everybody's scared, because there's some kids that are actually thinking. The Pistols reflect life as it is on the council flats, not some fantasy world that most rock artists create. Yes, they will destroy it, but it won't be mindless destruction. What they destroy will be replaced by a more honest creation. The likes of Led Zeppelin, Queen and the Pink Floyd need to be chucked in the classical music section. Those and bands like them are composers, musicians and artists. They've got to make way for real people, and the Sex Pistols are the first of them.
When I talked to you before, you recited a very militant editorial from Sniffing Glue. I mean, are those days behind you now?
No, I still believe in everything I said then. Still will do, you know.
But you're nothing to do with Sniffing Glue anymore?
No, Sniffing Glue filled in a gap, which has now been filled by all the weeklies, all the Sounds and the Enemy and that lot.
The concert was a sellout. Not surprising, since the promoters picked a hall that could seat less than 500. It attracted those who believe that punk rock is all about safety pin jewelry, the just plain curious, and the costume wearers, seeking some publicity of their own. Takings at the bar exceeded those at the box office as the Pistols made a fashionably delayed appearance. But suddenly, there they were. Detectives from Atlanta's Vice Squad were in the audience, fearing the group might unleash something unutterably obscene. All they got was a bare chest, a lot of beer swigging, a few four-letter words from Johnny Rotten, and lyrics that might or might not have been objectionable. 45 minutes later, the Sex Pistols' first American concert was over. Ahead of them, appearances in Texas and California.
What did you think of the
They
Sex
were
Pistols?
great. They were great. If I could only make out the words, they'd be greater.
It was awful loud, you know, real loud. It sounded like rock and roll along, you know, a few years ago and listened to punk rock.
Groom flinched there because somebody had
yeah.
just spit on him.
Maybe that's what punk rock is about, spitting on people.
Maybe so. Yeah, I don't know what to say now.
To counter the Sex Pistols' reputation for not giving interviews, bass player Sid Vicious came out to tell reporters a little bit about his personal background.
When I was 13, when I was 12, I was just a kid. When I was 13 to 15, I was a skinhead. From 15 to 20, I've been a punk.
The American tour flop caused a split between Johnny and Malcolm McLaren. After playing in San Francisco, the Sex Pistols finally broke up. Last week, having arrived back via New York and Kingston, Jamaica, Johnny Rotten gave me his first television interview since 1976. John, are you going around London incognito at the moment?
Yeah, this is my disguise.
What is it? Where'd you get the hat from?
Got it in Disneyland, Mad Hatter's hat.
What happened to the 10 and 6?
I threw it away because it cost a bit more than 10 and 6.
Now, you split up with the Pistols. How are you occupying your time?
Boringly.
What's stopping you forming another band or doing something?
It's called Malcolm McLaren. As soon as I get him off my back, I'll be able to continue. Until then, I can't release anything without him taking a great big fat share of the profit.
Would you like to start another band?
Yes, I am. I'm rehearsing like all the time with loads of people. And if there's anybody out there who's interested in working with me, that's fine.
Now, when you went to Jamaica, was it to look for black musicians to do?
No, just to help Virgin sign up bands.
A lot of people think that maybe your first record will be a reggae record.
A lot of people are totally wrong.
But you have formed a band already?
No.
But you're rehearsing with people?
Yeah. They change every night. For obvious reasons, personality differences.
So, although you still have a contract with Malcolm, you are trying to get out of it.
Well, he broke it, not me.
What? He threw you out?
Yes, well, he's gone down in press as saying so.
But is it depressing being in a situation where you can't put a record out?
Well, of course it is. It's the only business I was anything good at.
But do you think Malcolm's trying to avoid you?
Oh, isn't that obvious?
But how can you resolve the situation?
Kill him.
Well, apart from getting a bread knife out, how else can you...
Oh, no, I mean subtly. Car accident and all that. That'd be good fun. Go down well in the papers as well. Real good publicity stunt. Next question.
Do you think that the new wave...
I was always a mug.
Is it a bit hard living up to your image sometimes?
What image? I never thought I had one.
Well, what do you think?
I change from day to day. Well, now we have a following.
Every time you appeared on stage, the music press wrote up precisely what you wore, and they said tonight he came on in an Oliver Twist outfit, or tonight he wore a straw hat.
That's pathetic, isn't it? I mean, like...
Do you think they ever paid enough attention to...
They were more interested in the clothes and the colour of me poxy hair.
What's happened to, not the fans, but the people that, the followers, if you like, all the people that suddenly started making bands? Now the Sex Pistols are split up. What are they doing? They're making their own music?
I have no idea.
I mean, do you see them at all?
There's nowhere to go in London, is there? I mean, like, the problem now is a lot worse than when we started. If anything, we've made it worse.
What?
We're responsible for destroying London.
No, how long do you think it will be, seriously, before you'll be performing?
6 months.
And what's the... Do you keep in touch with any of the people that you played with before? Anybody in the band?
No, they never bothered to ring me, so I won't ring them.
Well, who are your friends now?
The same friends I've always had all my life. Oh, do you want to sit on the seat?
What are you writing songs about now?
The same sort of things. Nothing's changed.
What sort of things?
Nothing ever does.
Well, you don't think that...
Oh, misery, depression, self-indulgence, all those trite little obsessions.
But you've got a flat in Chelsea now.
Yeah, just about. They complain about the noise, eh? How unfair.
What did you get out of being in the Sex Pistols then?
I went to see Afterworld, didn't I? I thought that was a bit of all right.
What else?
A lot
Apart
of
from
misery.
seeing half the world, not the other half.
A lot of misery. Put into a position I didn't really like.
What was that? I mean, to live up to an image that's...
Yeah, being treated as like someone different from like normal Joe Bloggs. You know, it ain't the person that changes, it's people's attitudes towards them.
Does it annoy you?
People just think you've gone to America, therefore you're such a star. It ain't true. The sun shines out of.
But what else did you get out of being in the band? Did you get any money?
No, practically nothing.
But you did well in the charts. I mean, you sold a lot of records.
Yeah, but you always know who collects the cash.
Now you're going to start another band. Would you do the same things again? I mean, would you
Cheap
still
looking
go on
camera.
top of... Now you're starting another band, right? And you've been through 2 years in a band that broke up. This time, would you do the same things? Like, would you go on Top of the Pops this time round? I mean, have things you've done before...
No, nothing's changed. I never wanted to go on Top of the Pops. They bunged that film on without, like, asking, which I thought was, like, really nasty. You know, like, Malcolm did loads of things like that, which bugged me.
Didn't you have much control over things in the end?
Yeah, that's why we split.
What? You heard the ultimate word? Yeah, but he's retained...
Your hair looks like rhubarb.
But he has retained control over you.
Yeah, for the moment.
Did you make any money in the end, though?
No, we lost a lot in America that tour. Thank God, in a way. I mean, like, you know, $2 to get in is like, over there, just a joke, it's like 30 pence.
Yeah.
I think that was good.
So you misjudged it. I mean, Malcolm misjudged it as a way of making money.
Yeah, the poor fool fell flat on his face.
The man who calls himself Sid Vicious, he's nearest the camera, helped start punk rock, and by the time the Sex Pistols hit American shores, they'd made international headlines. Their antisocial antics, like vomiting on stage, often triggered violence in the audience, and their criminal records offstage, Sid Vicious once knocked a British Bobbie's teeth out, almost prevented the U.S. State Department from giving them American visas. After their tour here, they split up. That night, Vicious was pulled off a plane at Kennedy Airport, the victim of a drug overdose. That was a few months ago. Today, police received an ambulance call at the Chelsea Hotel on West 23rd Street. In room 100, Sid Vicious was sitting on the bed near his picture. In the bathroom was the 20-year-old American girl he'd lived with for 2 years. Nancy Laura Spungen had been stabbed to death. Police say a collapsible hunting knife lay nearby.
Did he say anything to you at that time?
In the course of our investigation, he did make statements to us.
Neon Leon, a rock artist, was with Sid Vicious and Nancy early this morning.
Which I find it kind of hard to believe, knowing him outside of the context of, you know, the image of what the Sex Pistols were supposed to be, anarchy and, you know, destroy
violence
and so
and
forth. But he really loved this person. He loved her more than he loved his music.
Vicious's real name is John Simon Ritchie, and he's been booked for murder. When they transferred him to a detention center, it took 4 men to hold him. Sid Vicious fought his way through a barricade of cameras. But this time, it wasn't for show.
It was meant to happen. Nancy always said she'd die before she was 21.
The victim, Nancy Spungen of Philadelphia, was found in the singer's suite at the Chelsea Hotel. He's been charged with second-degree murder.
What would you like to happen now over the next, say, year or two?
I'd like to have fun.
What sort of fun?
Any kind of fun, just fun. That's my object in life.
Are you having fun at the moment?
Are you kidding? No, I'm not having fun at all.
Where would you like to be?
Under the ground.
Sid Vicious will not have to stand trial for the murder of a girlfriend at the Chelsea Hotel. Sid is no longer vicious, he's dead. His nude body found in a Greenwich Village apartment, spoon and syringe nearby. The heroin overdose may have been accidental.
Vicious shot up some heroin, and he had a reaction to it, which he came out of about 45 minutes later. And then about 2 o'clock, he lay down to go to sleep.
All they know for now is that he had been asleep with companion Michelle Robinson at the time of his death. She's an unemployed actress who was hustled away from the scene along with the victim's mother as the crowd of curious and neighbors grew inside. Police say they were told by the victim's girlfriend that his last hours were spent looking toward the future.
He was speaking about his future. The conversation with his girlfriend was about his future, and it appears from the conversation he didn't want to do away with himself.
What sort of future was he contemplating?
I have no idea.
Nancy Spungen, a punk groupie from Philadelphia, apparently already had a drug habit when they met, and the couple seemed to have had a death pact. She died of stab wounds in a New York hotel room in October 1978. She was 20. Charged with murder, Vicious outlived Nancy by a mere 4 months. Released on bail, he stepped out of the limelight and out of life with a heroin overdose. He was 21. Sid and Nancy, the film, is to say the least unconventional. It cost a little under £3 million to make, financed by the British film company Zenith and an American cable channel. The English stage actor Gary Oldman plays Sid.
My hair, bloody well.
And an American actress, Chloe Webb, is Nancy.
Where are you?
The director, Alex Cox, says the film is essentially a romantic love story. At the same time, he was very aware of the risk of glamorizing hard drugs.
Yeah, it is a problem if you make a film
about that subject, because you don't want to make a film that people see it and they go, oh yeah, this looks pretty interesting, I must go and give this a try. I hope that the way we've depicted all of that scene in the film is real. I hope it has a certain reality, because if it has a reality to it, I don't think it's attractive. A lot of films don't really get at the reality of what it's like to be a junkie and, you know, and living in a room all covered in scabs and your only possession is a television set, you know. I mean, it's a very sad life, a very hard life. I really don't think we glamorize it. I hope we don't, because if we do, then we failed and we did a bad thing.
I have to say from the outset that the film for me was a very traumatic experience. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I didn't think Alex would actually do the good job that he has. I thought it recreated for me exactly what I felt like at the time. I do think the film in its final stages, by being relentless on the drug issue, is important, because I think that's when it could have been glamorized. But I think because some people accuse it of being overdone, I don't think that's the case. I think it really shows it for what it is, which is quite a sordid sort of, you know, lifestyle.
So how did you come out of the cinema feeling?
Oh, well, I don't think anyone can emerge from the film really thinking they've seen, you know, been wonderfully entertained. I don't think that's the point of it. You come out with a sense of sadness and of loss, because Sid, for all his, you know, faults, was a really nice person, and so was Nancy.
Well, there you go. That guy who you reckon was primed actually happens to be a member of a band called the Angelic Upstarts. Now, they're a band who started off very similar to yourself, Johnny, in the Sex Pistols.
Yes, come on. I don't give two what they're called. It's simple. Don't tell me I sold out, pal.
I didn't tell you.
Walked out.
That guy.
It was the only honest band in 2,000 million years. I could not help the management being corrupt. I don't want to talk about the past. I want to go on.
Well, all right. He also spoke about what you're doing now. And he reckons you've sold out. And
is this
he doesn't know what we're doing now. He doesn't seem to know anything.
Well,
has he ever seen us live?
Could you? I don't know. I didn't ask him that. Could you let us know what you're doing now, what you're into now, what your link with the street?
Look, I don't have to explain myself to anybody, and I ain't going to really bother. Now, I was asked here, right, to interview with the band here, Pill, but now, like, we're facing a cheapskate comedy interrogation act. And it just ain't on, pal. It's a joke. It's a farce.
You mean you don't want to give any messages to the...
I don't have to explain myself. Sooner or later, somebody will open their eyes. Oh, sorry, rude word.
Well, it sounds like we've heard this story before.
Really? Would you like to tell me where? Good night.
Good night.
Want to continue?
Well, that's up to you entirely. Do you all follow the leader?
Yeah, there ain't no leader.
Well, all right.
I thought that was the point of having four people. You asked just me and him, didn't you? To do
all right,
an
come on,
interview,
the rest of the band. How
why
difficult
don't you try
was it?
answering an intelligent question? Try and think of one.
Tell you
if
what.
you never asked one in your life.
Let's forget about it all.
Right.
Yeah, I think you should.
No, that is total cop-out.
Cop-out.
Knocking the music business seems to be quite the thing these days, and the cinema has been quick to jump on the bandwagon, making a quiet fortune in the process. The great rock and roll swindle has done the rounds twice now, and Martin caught up with it in deepest Washington, D.C., didn't you? Tell us about it, Martin.
Well, I thought it was one of the best rock films I've ever seen, and basically it just charts the rise and fall of the Sex Pistols. Very well put together with animation, newsreel and footage by Julian Temple, the director.
Right. My personal view on punk rock is that it's nauseating, disgusting, degrading, ghastly, sleazy, prurient, voyeuristic and generally nauseating. I think that just about covers it as far as I'm concerned. I think most of these groups would be vastly improved by sudden death.
You start off in school and they take your soul away. They take your brains away. You're not allowed to have an opinion that differs from theirs. You've got to think what they tell you to think. So when you leave school, your only future is getting married. And by the time you're about 29, you've got 2 kids. You just want to commit suicide.
A charming tale. And despite what Mr. Lydon had to say about his own public image, he wasn't averse to a little hype himself when it came to releasing his LP, entitled, appropriately enough, Metal Box. Just look at this. Here we have one metal box. Inside you've got 4 12-inch singles, and of course for the street-level price of £7. Who's hyping who now, Johnny?
Punk only lasted 1 year. Unlike rock and roll in the 50s and modern beat in the 60s, punk never became a best-selling style of music. In 1977, the year of punk, no record by a punk band was among the 50 top-selling singles. The main reason for this was that punk worked much better live than it did on records. So you must have been asked a million times, but what does it feel like to have been Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols there? Is it a memory? Is it
I don't know. I mean, ask the Imitators how they feel. To me, it didn't mean too much. I just thought it was a joke.
Could you look around and see yourself ending up, say, like the Clash have, like on this endless spiral of...
God only knows, I hope not.
Were you the only one with ambition then? Because the other geezers in it, I mean, they seem to be lost. How much ambition have you got?
Who are you talking about?
Well, Stephen Paul, obviously not Sid.
I don't know. Listen, I mean, in the Pistols it was difficult because they were all into, like, the regular rock and roll format, verse, chorus, and I just couldn't write things like that.
It worked for the time, though, didn't it?
It worked, yeah, for a bit. And then Malcolm, like, began to take it all just too serious.
Joe, everyone thinks of you as well as being the musical force behind the Sex Pistols.
I had nothing to do with the music of that band. I just wrote the words.
You never wanted to write any of the music?
No. Not the way they were doing it. My ideas were totally different.
Another school of thought?
Well, I mean, it was a chance for me, right? So I took it. Because I quite like the way I write.
Was it a laugh at the beginning?
I just had to set off a duff old Chuck Berry reruns, but that's... I don't know, it got me a foot in the door, so I took it.
Was it a laugh at the beginning? Did you think it'd amount to anything?
I never thought it would get anywhere, never in a million years. It just was like a real good piece of fun. I might go into studying marine biology properly.
How did you become interested in marine biology?
Well, just about everything in there bites and hurts and maims and kills you. That's what grabbed my interest.
He's now called John Lydon, and all he'll say about the past is that it wasn't that vicious. Do you ever still spit on people at concerts?
Never did.
You never did?
No. I've been spat on, yes, but that was a myth that was created in the press.
These days he plays a very different sort of music with a band called Public Image Limited. In his spare time, he studies marine life.
Well, people call me tasteless, see, but look, this is nature at work. You can't get more tasteless than that.
The bad boy of punk has become a homebody and nature lover.
Well, I'm a TV addict. I watch TV all the time, regardless of what's on usually. But, no, I do have a preference for nature shows.
And he's even been called a greenie.
Doesn't appear to be much chance for this planet. 25 years, less probably. They keep throwing out the pollution at the rate they are. There won't be nothing left.
If you hadn't been a musician, do you think you might have done something along the lines?
Oh, I'm not a musician. Oh, no. A noise organiser, yes, but not a musician.
Many critics would agree with the assessment that the Sex Pistols were never anything even approaching musicians. But all the same, Johnny has done all right for himself. Unlike his co-pistol, Sid Vicious, who died of a drug overdose after killing his girlfriend, John has survived comfortably. He's reportedly married into one of Germany's richest families and acquired 4 houses.
Well, you know, that's the kind of nonsense you'd read in that Sunday Sport.
How many houses do you own?
2.
2? That's still more than most people.
It's one more than most people.
Hello. In the mid-1970s, a new and anarchic cult sprang up on the streets of London. The punk movement, spearheaded by the Sex Pistols, sought to sweep away the tired remnants of 60s youth culture. Like most other youth movements, however, it was still very much fashion-led. To be a punk, you had to dress the part. Its chief dresser was a young Kings Road shopkeeper, Vivienne Westwood. Gillian Greenwood's film looks at the clothes and career of Vivienne Westwood, who subsequently graduated from punk to the Paris catwalk. She's remained at the forefront of fashion design since her anarchic beginnings with her then partner Malcolm McLaren, and has since proved herself Britain's most consistently inventive and original designer. She was recently cited by the American paper Women's Wear Daily, the fashion trade's Bible, as one of the 6 most influential designers in the world. Yet despite such acclaim and the unqualified praise of her peers, her work still sometimes baffles and outrages the general public. Although the fashion establishment now accepts her talent, she remains a maverick figure, still unconforming and apparently refusing to dilute her originality to suit more commercial interests. Her clothes now hang in the Victoria and Albert Museum. Some are already collector's items, but she remains a craftswoman, albeit a subversive one, who combines wit and tradition to produce something more than the latest fashion trend.
Ladies and gentlemen, that spooky but talented couturier, Vivienne Westwood!
I have a kind of inbuilt sort of clock which always reacts against anything orthodox.
Well, what a striking little figure you are, Viv. Naughty little possum, too.
If you sat like a little monkey at a typewriter for 100 years, you couldn't invent her.
Things like this are reminiscent of Greek peasant costumes, this little kilt.
She wants to go over the top, if you like. She wants people to use their bodies and to be proud in their clothes and to see them as fun.
I don't look like a chick job, I look like a fairy.
It depends what you want. If you want all the men on the building site to whistle at you, just wear it and you get a reaction.
What's most important about Vivienne is her lack of regard for people's morality or taste.
Are people supposed to laugh? I mean, they're laughing at us.
I think she feels great, and I don't think they should laugh, really. I've always been interested in the idea of the Queen. It's part of my little history as well, because I was involved with the Sex Pistols and the Queen with the safety pin through her lip.
I was a friend of her younger brother's, and I would meet her when I had left my middle-class home to live in the back of his car. And I just remember her wheeling a pram past me in the morning to her mum's and peeping in the window of the car and waking me up. That's when I first met her. And I thought, who's that?
Well, I was making clothes for myself as a teenager. I could make clothes. I learnt to do it by playing around with Butterick patterns, basically. And when Malcolm McLaren, who I would be 20, I don't know, in my 20s, mid-20s, I helped Malcolm McLaren in a career that he had in mind, and I started making clothes to help him.
And I was rather fond of her because I felt that she was desperately looking for something to do other than wheel that pram. And lo and behold, it was pretty obvious after her going to church and on Sundays or whatever else she did at the time, that she was just trying to escape from her husband.
Malcolm had been to several art colleges and was looking for something to earn money from.
Come on, get him on.
We were looking for motives of rebellion. Malcolm got onto the idea of sex, sexual confrontation. And so the obvious thing was leather, bondage gear, rubberware. We sold all those things in our shop. Malcolm's slogan, and he really meant it, was rubberware for the office. And I used to walk around in rubberware, whatever.
She would follow on any wheeze or whim or fancy I had. And I think fundamentally believed in me. And thought it was all fascinating and fantastic, and would immediately assemble herself on a Saturday night in a giant condom, you know, that was like a see-through latex suit. No, totally jump in at the deep end. Her sense of commitment was brilliant.
McLaren and Westwood, I thought, were a team. They were an ensemble. They were part of a movement, whatever that might be. And her role, it's rather like those books with covers that say, "And the Women Who Loved Them." Her role was to do the clothes, and she was jolly clever at doing that, and she had a funny line in chat too. But she was part of the movement. The movement's ideals and rhetoric were already there, and she clothed it. And so Vivian dressed the lads to go out and kill. And that really was important.
I had researched street fashion to such an extent that we actually invented one of our own. We'd been so interested in cults that we invented a cult of our own, and that was punk rock. And no one saw that until the Sex Pistols, just a week or two before our shop was opened, and the shop had all the punk gear in. And then kids bought it or copied some of it themselves. But it wasn't invented from the streets, it was the other way around.
At one point or another, having gone around and bought old clothes and set up a shop called Let It Rock in 1971, I decided I wanted to concoct some things myself, either recut things or rework things or slam a slogan on something or customize stuff. And Vivian being totally craft and me being very art formed a kind of an alliance in which she did all the bloody work and I did all the folderols and ideas and all the stuff that lazy buggers like people like me do.
Malcolm was not a craftsperson. He didn't know how to actually make something. Perhaps he could have done, but as I could do it, I was the one who actually practically made things. And often when I took them to a certain stage, Malcolm would get me to try them on and start pulling them around.
It wasn't designing clothes on a bust. The techniques came out more of out of painting more than out of direct concern with the rules and regulations of making clothing. Because Vivian was not taught. I was a painter and shrugged off most of whatever I knew. I mean, I did have a whole vocabulary of understanding of textiles and cloth, and I knew where to go. But that wasn't the side of it that I was interested in. It was more the sloganizing and the concocting of damage-driven clothes, you know?
I made the bondage trousers, and then he, absolutely brilliantly, put the strap round the leg.
I came up with the idea, well, you know, you've got to tie the legs together, so we've got to form a strap around the kneecaps. We should have a zip that wouldn't ordinarily end at your balls, but would go right up your bum. So you could immediately undo the zip and the whole goddamn lot would just fall out.
And he just said that we should attach this little flap thing on the back, and he was right. I remember asking him what the toweling flap was supposed to be, and he didn't know. He just thought that it was right, that we should put a flap on the back. I said it should be out of toweling for some reason. He wanted to give a suggestion of something tribal, something looking like a loincloth.
So all those things were obviously anti the High Street, anti even the King's Road. Had never been seen before.
Just as we've been disillusioned with Teddy Boys as not being terribly interesting in the end, etc., we became disillusioned with punk. The thing that really did it for me was when I heard the Clash boasting that they'd never lived, any of them, lower down than 5 stories high, and they seemed to think that that was a great badge of working class credibility, and I just didn't want to be in this tunnel with this kind of dull attitude.
I thought that she definitely wanted to be a designer now. There was a desire to continue to live together, but something that was a strain upon me emotionally at the time. And yet I felt a certain allegiance to try and get involved again in fashion, but this time from the point of really addressing Vivienne as a designer now.
I think in the next 10 years, people are going to have to look as if they have some taste, and they're going to have to really put their clothes together with a lot of discrimination. They're going to have to make themselves look elegant. Elegant's my favourite word with regard to fashion.
June the 4th, 1976, and the Sex Pistols, a little-known band of raggar street urchins from down south, turned up to play a gig at the Lesser Free Trade Hall in Manchester. Not Liverpool, but Manchester. That gig changed forever not only the lives of the 100 people who turned up, but the 500 people who said they turned up. A month later, the Pistols were back, this time with local band Buzzcocks in tow. So what exactly was it about those 2 lo-fi concerts in the backwaters of showbiz that changed forever not only the future sound of Manchester, but the course of Western civilization? To find out, come back with me now to the summer of '76, when, as I recall, ABBA were #1 and my mate Moe was sitting by a canal bank. This rare footage shows the Sex Pistols on stage at the Lesser Free Trade Hall. They'd been booked by local student Howard Devoto, to this day a deeply enigmatic person. He agreed to be interviewed for this film as long as his face wasn't shown.
In Manchester, in the north of England, around the middle of 1976, there were 2 concerts featuring a group that were fast becoming very famous called the Sex Pistols.
Howard was a guy, I think, that picked up on a small article in the NME about the Sex Pistols and how dreadful they were.
The Sex Pistols and I was surprised when 100 people turned up at the Lesser Free Trade Hall.
June the 4th, 76, 50 pence, that is, value for money.
We'd just never seen anything like it. It was just unbelievable. We didn't know what it was. It was just something that you couldn't take in. And it sounded absolutely awful.
I think that was part of what we liked about it, because it's kind of like this punk thing where it's like saying throw all the rule books out the window and just be yourself, and yourself will be, you know, all you need.
This wasn't a punk gig. The idea of punk gigs, we all went to punk gigs, bogoing, gobbing, loads of people banging off each other. This wasn't a punk gig. This wasn't a gig. This was a band on a proscenium arch stage, a small, strange, dull, wooden auditorium with 100 or 120 seats, with 35 people sitting separately. I think most people were on their own, sitting separately in a seat, staring at this thing.
The audience were just like us, really, hippies. And when the Sex Pistols came on stage, they looked completely different from us.
Everybody who was there were kind of outsiders, and that was what had drawn them there. That's why people were there. And the Sex Pistols were the ultimate outsiders group. And you knew it was just all gelled. There was instant identification with the Sex Pistols.
You were never looking to hopefully see a good rock and roll band, you were looking and hoping to see the most dreadful and wonderful energy that could be best described as, you know, your first fuck, really.
We want to be in a group. So Bernard had a guitar, and I went out the very next day and bought a £35 SG copy from Maisels on Oxford Road.
I only went to the first one at Free Trade Hall. That's just before Buzzcocks were formed. I stood outside, went to meet this guy to form a group, and the next thing I'm talking to Malcolm McLaren.
I think his name was Diggle.
Took me inside and introduced me to Pete, who was collecting tickets on the door, you know.
He seemed such an innocent sort of chap, really.
And he came up to me and said, here's your new bass player. Which I was quite surprised, which was nice.
The first thing Malcolm said after it was, we'll do it again, we want to do it again. And I set up another gig. This was on the 20th of July. By this time, Buzzcocks were ready, and 400 instead of 100 people were also ready to attend.
We were asked to return a second time and play with the so-called group, which I think Howard called the Buzzcocks.
Obviously, I'd never heard of the Buzzcocks. It was their first gig. I remember that they were first on. I remember them being really dreadful.
Well, the Buzzcocks were great. I saw parts. I can't remember whether I stayed for it all, so I wanted to go to the pub.
I couldn't really play the bass, I just sort of went along with it, really, yeah. True punk tradition.
The Pistols came on, and by this time, the scene had grown so much in the month or whatever, it was like really like an avalanche. So we knew more or less what to expect, and we were very hyped up for it.
It was also the first time we premiered Anarchy, I think, the second gig.
And the curtains opened, and Johnny Rotten started to sing, and the rest of the band hadn't got the instruments plugged in. And there were some expletives chucked across the stage, you know, I mean, hang on a fucking minute or something, you know. I left after about 6 numbers, I think it was.
We got into the spirit of things, and after they finished one song, I shouted out, I can do that. And Johnny Rotten came forward, walked to the edge of the stage, and looked in my direction. There was nobody else sat around us. And he said, who's the with the mouth? And I just sort of froze, gulped, and slid into my seat. I was scared.
They played in the way that, as if they just didn't care. Couldn't care less whether you liked us or not, really. Which was quite good, I enjoyed that. Because we didn't really care either.
As an outsider, it would look like as though it had quite a sort of important cathartic effect on it. But it's the same wherever we played. There was like a real watershed, like pre-Pistols and after Pistols.
It was this fulcrum moment which transformed us from being an ordinary British city with, you know, a couple of good bands every 2 or 3 years to being this bloody battery farm of geniuses, which just does not stop. We keep thinking it's going to stop, and it doesn't.
It became like, wow, that's what we want to do. We wanted to become punks, which we did. And it was a fine moment. I mean, it certainly changed my life. It made me think in a completely different way.
There'd have been no Joy Division, no Factory Records, no Hacienda, no Smiths, no Simply Red, even down to that far. That Sex Pistols concert changed everything.
This summer, with punk 20 years old and the Pistols back together, we reunited their Manchester audience in the original venue.
You see, I think we just turned up on the night, just out of our heads, and I think these were tickets that they had on the door.
I was a afro-weared moustache soul boy, and we still came to see the Pistols, and it's like because they were our mates and Slaughter and Dogs and everything.
Donald with his Lorex trousers.
This weekend, the Free Trade Hall closed for good, though the Sex Pistols themselves play on.
The Pistols reforming has surprised me greatly because I know John quite well, and his hatred for Glenn Matlock. I just obviously didn't realise his love of money was more than his hatred for Glenn Matlock.
I think it's a farce, and I wouldn't go and see them if you paid me.
It's sad because of what they were standing for at the time, and I'm sure the young Sex Pistols wouldn't approve of what the old Sex Pistols are doing.
I don't know where we're playing, to be honest. I'm just going to turn up and clean pair of socks and that's it.
I mean, I, for one, when I heard it, was surprised, and I thought, oh, rubbish. And then when I sat down and thought about it, I thought, I'm going, and I will be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world. If it gives me something back from that moment which is a very, very important moment in my life, one spark, it reminds me of that time, then it'll all be worthwhile.
I can only remember that those kids were believing that they were at the beginning of something, and they believed they had in their reach something authentic, and they were not going to ever let that go. It was a rare jewel, like a ruby in a field of tin.
I think a combination of the Sex Pistols playing twice, plus Buzzcocks being a Manchester band, very obviously galvanised something or other. But then it's all gone, and it's sort of, what happens next?
It's about doing what you want in the first place. Quite frankly, over the years, every fucker has lived off us, and we've not seen penny one all respect. You wouldn't think we'd need a thing like that, would you? Down. But quite frankly, I do, and I fucking demand it. Microphones, by the way, for people that need to be heard. Is it because we're working class that somehow that means we have no access to cash, period? Should we just stay in our horrible little council estate? Bollocks. To hear the question, what do the Sex Pistols stand for? Money. Exactly how broke are you? Not very at all. That's the joke. I mean, I don't really need the cash. But, you know, a little bit more, why not? It might very well be daylight robbery, but, you know, you're here, I'm here.
Something outrageous, dirty bastard. You dirty fucker.
The money, he was too fucking stupid.
And it's absolutely nothing to do with it now. He won't earn a penny.
No, I'm quite fine standing where I am.
Have you ever had one of those days when you ask, why am I here?
All right, I mean, enough of that.
Thank you.
4 aging punks and a room crammed with us.
We were bored shitless. There's nothing out there but dinosaur rock. We never pretended to be the prettiest boys in the world. This isn't about good looks here. It's actually about talent, whether you like it or not.
You're looking at the remnants of a legend, the Sex Pistols, decomposing 40-year-olds, fat and flat, but out to make a buck anyway.
You either like what we do or you don't. And quite frankly, I don't give a f***.
Just as well I'd brought the beatbox. Though naughty words don't offend as many people as they used to, they are one of the Pistols' stock in trade. They call it honesty and integrity. Or is it just gratuitous swearing?
Utterly irrelevant. Couldn't give a flying f***.
Sid Vicious is dead and gone, a junkie who topped himself after killing his girlfriend. Johnny Rotten is no longer rotten, just plain John Lydon. And the others all looked pretty vacant.
I'm talented and I expect to be paid for it. I don't do nothing for nothing. You tell me anyone out there who does, and I'll tell you they're a liar.
Frank, I mean, it's highly likely that we just beat the crap out of each other in the first 3 seconds.
But there was no mindless violence today, hardly any meaningful insults, just a few intimidating glares. Bit sad, really. And when it came to our individual interview, John became his own worst nightmare. A likeable, sweet guy.
John, you don't hide the fact that you hate the press.
No, I hate it. Makes me nervous and self-conscious. And
how could you be self-conscious?
Because I'm like that. I die a death before every gig. I panic, nerves. I don't like letting people down. I want to do the best I can. I'm only really the happiest when I'm actually on stage. The rest is torture. Touring is hell.
Thought he was going to cry. Must be rotten being a star and touring the world, raking in money. The least I could do is let him ask his own questions.
What would be a relevant question for you?
I can't do your work for you.
Well, why not? You bitch enough about what we do up there.
You're the press, aren't you? You're depressing by your very nature. You're cynical, you have to, like, twist things. It's called entertainment, I suppose.
What, you reckon you could
I just
do it
have to
better?
tolerate it.
You could do it better?
Yes, I could.
What
Probably
would you do that'd
will.
be different?
That are sensible questions.
Well, give me an example. What's a sensible question?
I ain't going to do your job for you. The end.
Shortest interview I've ever done. On your bike, John.
It's enough to make your hair stand on end. Hundreds of punks in a reunion that'll see the Sex Pistols back on stage for the first time in 19 years.
This bloke's an artist, right? And he used to like punk art. And at school, nobody understood punk art. And I was like walking around school thinking, oh, I love this bloke. His hair's like brilliant. And like, look at him now.
The Pistols were the angry brigade of the 70s. Sid Vicious consigned himself to the big band in the sky when he died of a drugs overdose in '79. In March this year, the Pistols reformed for the Filthy Lucre Tour to make some cash.
We ain't pretending to be kids. We never did in the first place. We never bought into that Pete Townsend, hope I die before I get old. We love our beer bellies, and you're gonna too.
The warm-up for the Sex Pistols, who were on at 9 tonight, included a set from those other punk heroes, Stiff Little Fingers.
You were 19 years old, you thought you could take on the world, and, you know, with a tune and a guitar, you could. I mean, I never thought I'd still be doing it now, I've got to be honest.
Who said punk was dead?
Underdressed for today, and what I need is, apart from a decent haircut, is a decent hearing specialist. Now, the Sex Pistols are definitely the star turn tonight.
I remember back in
building.
'67.
They might be doing it for money. This lot are doing it for love.
I was a young
in
boy.
Finsbury Park, this is Gilly Park for London Tonight.
And me.
And covered in coke.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Sex Pistols.
Are you ready?
All that really matters is how good or bad we are live. And that's all that ever really mattered. The songs are there, the content is there. The relevance of these songs has not changed in 20 years. There's been nothing more powerful or even equal to, not by any band or genre out there.
Don't be naughty. I'm telling you wrong.
When it comes to the art of media manipulation, Malcolm McLaren could be called a creative genius. Playing God with the music and fashion industry, he masterminded punk, imported hip-hop and delivered Adam Ant. But what is the Buffalo stance on religion of this musical maverick?
What I believe in spiritually, I guess, is what everybody else believes in, which is an ability to see things change. I was never a great believer in God because I always found the devil more fascinating. Being bad was more interesting than being good. Being good seemed to me to be kind of boring. Back in the 70s, when I created a group called the Sex Pistols, they changed things by my manipulation around them and creating a necessary chaotic atmosphere in order for those things to change, in order for the culture to change, in order to create a point of view that you felt more interesting. You made bad good. You, therefore, in the pragmatic world in which we live in, are prone to believe in magic on a more simplistic scale, astrological signs and so on.
Now, just when you thought the contest for London Mayor couldn't get any stranger, a new candidate emerged today. Malcolm McLaren, former manager of the Sex Pistols and a music star in his own right, wants to work his magic on the capital. Our political editor, Andy Bell, went to meet him.
How's this for a CV for a candidate to be London Mayor? Gave the world the Sex Pistols, created punk rock, experience of running a metropolis, nil. Now Malcolm McLaren, the man who created the Sex Pistols, says it's time to put another show on the road.
If we're going to have a mayor, let's have a mayor that doesn't belong to any political party, who's a genuine and authentic candidate, rather than a karaoke stooge who mouths the words of other people's and doesn't have to take responsibility after the actual performance.
Malcolm McLaren has experience of running campaigns. After a fashion, this was his last promotion of a band called Junk. Let's just say they wouldn't have won him a landslide. But what would a Citizen McLaren government of London look like? Well, he'd have a lottery for Londoners to help fund housing for homeless people. He'd conduct a campaign against the epidemic of trendy coffee shops, which he says are destroying London's character, and he'd legalise a brothel opposite Parliament so the odd sleazy politician wouldn't have far to travel. So what does one of the other mayoral candidates think about this latest entry into the race?
Well, he's perfectly entitled to do what he likes, isn't he?
What do you think of some of his policies? The idea of, for instance, legalising brothels and having drinks in public libraries. These could be sort of vote winners, could they?
Well, if he wants to legalise a brothel, he should live next door to the legalised brothel and then see what it's like, because a lot of people in King's Cross wouldn't like it.
Didn't like that. His idea was to have one opposite Westminster.
OK.
Down to earth with a bump. Just a warning, the politicians aren't going to roll over in the face of one of the godfathers of punk. Andy Bell, 5 News.
He brought us the Sex Pistols. Now he's trumpeting a new voice, his own. Malcolm McLaren, self-styled cultural icon, addressing the people on the internet.
Let me make it quite clear. I'm very serious. I'm a fourth-generation Londoner and I care passionately about this city.
McLaren reckons the internet's the way forward. To him, it's power to the people online. You can read about how he wants to decriminalise cannabis and establish a Don't Buy Anything Day.
The fact that you can now hear someone speaking directly, that might not be on TV, that might not be through the normal channels of media, you're suddenly bypassing that and connecting directly to the people that matter. If we're the coolest city on the planet, as they say, why are they giving us Frank Dobson? Something's terribly wrong here. If we're the coolest city on the planet, we've got to have the coolest and most modern transport system on the planet, and that requires serious new energy and an independent board and a system that is going to continue to develop and improve over 25 years.
It also requires serious money. No word from Malk in his address who'll pay for London's new cool.
If you want to get Malcolm's message, you can hear it on www.vitaminic.co.uk and join in what he calls website democracy. In the West End, this is Owen Thomas for London Tonight.
But first tonight, a man who has been described both as a clever entrepreneur and as the greatest con man ever. Sadly for him, his bid for London Mayor has been somewhat overshadowed by recent events in the Labour Party. But as the race reaches its climax, Londoners can be assured of a colourful and most original campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Malcolm McLaren. Well, as I was saying, your campaign has been somewhat overshadowed by other events.
I don't think it's really been overshadowed exactly. I think what's actually happened is we've won. I think it's a game set match.
You've won what?
I think basically the independent vote, the notion of independence for London has been won through the enormous support for a man who decided to cross the Rubicon and join the other side.
You're talking about Ken Livingstone?
We're talking about Mr. Livingstone.
But what about your campaign, though?
My campaign has always been to contribute to the debate for independence. I'm not a politician, don't wish to be one, don't really like them. Basically, at the end of the day, I'm there to voice the air of dissent and to actually explain to everyone that politicians have created an incredible language of deceit. And that language we're about to dent the armour of and change. And I think with the notion of independence in London, for the first time, Londoners themselves will have some kind of role in controlling their own destiny, which they didn't have before. And I think with the notion of getting, sadly, a politician as an independent, nevertheless, it's the beginnings, and it's a place in which we can grab the opportunity and hopefully develop further and further. Remember, Ken Livingstone will be the first independent mayor for London, but not necessarily the last.
After all that, it got a little more serious with your masterminding or creation of the Sex Pistols. What was the idea behind that? This was a group of fairly talentless people who made a lot of unmusical noise.
I think that was the talent, really. That was the idea. It was a wonderful declaration of intent that you could take what was the popular culture, the culture you genuinely felt you owned, and reclaim it from what seemed to be a very dull, boring, accountant-led establishment called the music industry.
But there was some talent in that, wasn't there? Was there no talent at all? Did you not think that there was some talent, for example, if not in the Bay City Rollers, in the Beatles and so on? Did you, of the time?
I didn't care, really.
Right.
I sort of saw, if you like, I liked the idea of cutting. You know, if you say the music industry is one word, it was nice to cut it in half. Music here, industry there. Get rid of the industry, have more music. It was a kind of question of how you take what really is the messy process of creativity and you throw it up in front of people and make them realise that something that is messy is good. It's all about, I suppose...
Bad is good.
Yeah, and I suppose it's because I thought that art is like that. I was trained as an art student for over 8 years as a painter. It was always about being able to paint your doubts. It was always about demonstrating the mistakes.
But some art can be some art can be anti-establishment. It can be very daring. It can reach into new frontiers. But there's always an element of talent. Whereas in the Sex Pistols, I'm not too sure anybody thought they were very talented musicians, did they?
Well, the talent was in being able to take the whole of the English under 18s and turn them all into musicians.
But it all came to grief, didn't it? All ended in tears.
Well, I think it didn't all end in tears. It's the reason why you still got postcards being sold alongside the changing of the guard down Whitehall. In the end, the Sex Pistols brought an enormous amount of fun and at the same time an enormous amount of depth to a pop culture that was, at that point, rather moribund and devoid of ideas. You know, for someone to put the word anarchy into a pop song was a first. I mean, normally before then, most people imitated American-style
When I say
lyrics.
it ended in tears...
That was the first English, truly real English lyric, anarchy in the UK. I mean, even American groups now, today, actually cover those songs. It's kind of funny if you think of an American group covering a song called Anarchy in the UK.
And finally, 25 years ago, the Sex Pistols provoked outrage when they released the punk anthem God Save the Queen during the Queen's Silver Jubilee.
Well, today they confirmed they're releasing a new version of the single, this time to coincide with her Golden Jubilee. Our arts correspondent Nina Nana met the band's lead singer, who's still causing chaos after all these years.
Hello, my name's John. I'm here to represent the Sex Pistols, a band I used to be in and still am when it suits me.
And this is why it suits him now. The re-release in the Queen's Golden Jubilee year of God Save the Queen, the once banned song that caused outrage 25 years ago during her Silver Jubilee celebrations. And so we asked, what does he think of the monarchy now?
This is our country, this is our flag. They are our monarchy. They don't work too well at the moment.
And as he had a packed news conference, he also took a public swipe at the country's interest in David Beckham. And as for Tony Blair, God Save the Queen got to number 2 25 years ago, though at the time many cried conspiracy, saying it was deliberately kept off the top spot because of the Silver Jubilee. So what do the DJs of then think of the band's chances now?
Do the Sex Pistols have something in 2002? I would be so sad if they did. It would mean that contemporary pop had nothing to offer, there was no revolution, and that kids now were embracing something that is essentially out of date.
And so Johnny Rotten returns to tell us all how much he hates the government, the record industry, many of his colleagues, David Beckham, but perhaps most shocking of all, 25 years down the line, he seems to quite like the Queen.
It's Rule Britannia.
In fact, for the Jubilee, the Pistols are reforming for a special concert. How times have changed. Nina Nanar, ITV News.
All right, and I've said this many a time, but get this clear, right? When we first released the record, there was no #1 that week. Do you think I could trust a chart system? You know, whether it's 1 or 1 million, who gives a fuck? When have I ever done any of this for money? Come on, I'm challenging you. Give me something to fucking talk about, you bunch of wankers, right? I mean, there it is, the middle class. Well, kiss my arse. And here's a go, and listen to this. The Queen Mother, God bless her, because I don't wish death on anyone, right? But she lived to 101, and why? Pampered lifestyle. Well, I think we should all have equal, don't you? Don't you? You pay for this. If you don't know or care about your fucking monarchy, why are you still paying?
John, are you happy reaching middle age?
Yes, I am, as it happens. I'm doing it well, you see. I'm not Pete Townsend. I never said I hope to die before I get old. I intend to go on and on and on and on because I'm not aware of anything after life. That is why I cherish what I do so well. Alright? It ain't about the money, and you all know that. You know that's a fact. You cannot call me corrupt. You know that's a fact. You can call all the people I work with corrupt, because that's a fact too. I'm off.
It is a bit of an hassle rehearsing. It's hard work and it ain't easy, but look, this is me and this is the Pistols. We never do anything half-baked, right? We're determined to be the best we can, even though there's not really any serious competition to us. But in 25 years, I've not seen anything that tough in the wonderful world of rock and roll.
Why do you think that is, that they're, you know...
Weak hearts, cowards, all the Ponzi boys who've crept in. They've grabbed the image off us, but that's all they've took. They didn't understand that content is what matters most. That's what people pay attention to, and that's why you're still listening. It's become really, really weedy, and it's so magazine-led. There's no rebellion if you're getting your imagery out of a magazine. Nothing. You are zero. You are just fodder. Fodder for big business and corporations, and that's what rave is now. Dummy tits and glow sticks and whistles. You're just a cliche, and it's sad to see it, because they've missed the point what rave was in the first place. Like they've missed the point with punk. Punk's now what, Beckham and his Finn? I mean, come on. It ain't right. This is weedy. I mean, there weren't no great actor genius on my part. That's instinctive behaviour to me. And from what I come from, you just tell it like it is. Loud and proud, and by God, I stand by those words. I'm not ashamed of a single thing I've done in my life. And not many can say that. I ain't got no problems with it here, but 25 years ago, it was hell on earth for me, right? Police harassment non-stop. 4 raids in 3 months taught me, get out. You know, look out for yourself, boy, because you're going to get set up. And there was no one backing me. So off I went. First place I go, Ireland. I go to jail. So I end up in New York. And I liked it, and I stayed there. And I move about America now, and I move about the world. I can afford to do that because I work damn hard. Every penny I've ever earned in this life, I've worked for. Nobody's ever given me a handout. Nobody's ever helped me or anything I've ever worked with. And we like it like that. We're free. Show, I care for those orphans. I'm one myself. There is tea in here.
There's tea. Oh, well, now you're talking.
Spare no expense.
These days, cup of tea for anybody's.
Hold up. You might need to put. Good blatant advertising here. John, can you look this way, John, please?
Yeah, what's the biscuits? Oh,
Oh, that's dramatic. Without contradictions, it's all not worth anything. All right? If the second it becomes easy and all accepted, change it.
Do you think it's interesting that you and the Pistols have become something that's been identified as actually being quintessentially British?
I think it's wonderful because that's what we are. I'm teapots at dawn and I'm proud of it. You know, I'm from the old school and I like it. Serious British comedy. You know, we're music hall. But at the same time, bang on, dead on the money, right? Just telling it exactly as it is and getting away with it. That's an achievement. That's a tough uphill struggle to be successful at that and not get homogenised and not get sucked up into the system. I didn't want to spoil that, right? This isn't about that. It's let them have their go, right? Give them their chance, and by God, they fluffed it. And it just makes it all the better for me, coincidentally. If we'd have done it in the same week, it would have been real cheesy manoeuvre, and it isn't about that.
Have you got any surprises planned for the audience on Saturday?
Yeah, the fact that we're playing at Crystal Palace is a surprise enough. It's the closest we could ever get to Buckingham Palace. We're going to do as much as we can. I'd like to do about a 2-hour set, if old Honky Donkey Voice carries it. And if it don't, well, it's sing along with Johnny time, innit? I'll do the best I can. I guarantee I won't let you down. £32.50, 7 bands. Jesus, yeah, I'm in it for the money. 1 gig, you know? Who's the rip-off?
That's great, thank you very much.
Peace and love. Peace off. Oh, for fuck's sake, don't do that. Don't bother with that, for fuck's sake.
Go on, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous.
You dirty.
Go on, again.
You dirty.
What a clever boy.
What a
Well, that's it for tonight.
Almost 20 years later, the band reformed. It was Diddy Up time.
These are the people that wrote the songs. Thank you very much. And now we'd like to be paid for it, because quite frankly, over the years, every has lived off us.
He's got a point, of course. Mind you, as he showed in May this year announcing the Crystal Palace gig, he's also still got that wind problem. And as I discovered to my cost, the insults are still razor sharp.
You're a pussycat, really, aren't you, John? Be honest. Deep down beneath all that, you're a pussycat.
You look like a Madness fan.
Good man.
I think the gay hairdo gave it away.
Mind you, with the multicoloured barnet and the rolling eyes, John is now like that other much-loved British institution, the Pantomime Dame. God save this queen.
No, there's someone who's going to get a boot up the arse.
Welcome to the
we're on.
Pussycat. John, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Now
Why do they always do that?
I don't know why they always
add that
do that.
sarcastic little bit on the end. I mean, that's what keeps me, like, filthy and furious is that kind of journalism.
Ken Andrew keeps you filthy and furious.
Well, anyone who makes like sarky comments, you know, that you can't respond to. I mean, that...
This is your moment.
Right, I'm off. That press conference I did there, I took on the entire British press, and there was 350 of them in the room. And I dared them, ask me whatever you want, I will answer honestly. And they ran.
So how frustrating is that? You now being in your 40s, still having this frustration about not being understood, the sort of frustration that you had...
I'm not frustrated about it. That's your problems now, isn't it?
Now, steady, we're not going to go into my problems. We'd be here all day.
I've done my bit.
But you still sound very angry about the way things are.
No, well, because I don't like to see monopolisation. And I'm not accusing the royal family of that, for instance, in particular, because that's just a figurehead thing. But it's an important figurehead for this country that has nothing left. All the industries have been sold off. I mean, Blair's socialism, oh yes, wonderful, if you can believe the junk that the papers print. But really, what's he turned Britain into but one vast grey mediocrity? We don't all get along. People do have differences. Those differences are what make us all important.
Now, in the 70s, punk came about as a reaction to, I suppose, the bland, formulaic music, as you saw it, of the day. How do you...
No, it wasn't a reaction. It's like there was all that rubbish and I fancied doing something else. Simple, really.
OK, so not
But I liked a lot of that bland stuff, too.
Did you?
Why not?
So what do you make of the charts?
It's entertainment. You must, you know, you must not deny yourself entertainment.
What do you make of the charts today?
Fairly ludicrous now. I mean, it really is just all about sampling somebody else's old record over and over again. Well,
so we're much the same, in much the same state as we were when the Sex Pistols...
Yes, you have regurgitated my past and you've woke the dead.
So what's needed? You again?
Well, you can have me if you want.
OK.
I'm not here forever, but I don't mind, like, pointing out a few things.
So
I'm not waving no flag for the whole world to follow behind. But do wake up and do have an opinion.
If you were 25 years younger and as keen to be in the music industry, what would you be doing now?
Oh, complaining about my back injury. No, the age don't come into it. Life goes on. You know, I'm not like Pete Townsend. I don't hope I die before I get old. Quite the opposite. You know, youth is very well and fine, but there's nothing wrong with growing older either. Nothing at all, I've learnt. The brain power expands, oddly enough, and ain't nothing to complain there.
Going back to the Sex Pistol days, in the heyday, when all that excitement and magnetism was about you, were you aware...
Excitement and magnetism?
Yeah.
How about ferocious hate and fear? I mean, we were chased around the streets ludicrously often. I got the scars and knife wounds and all kinds of things from those days. There was no money in it. I mean, we were on the front of the Daily Mirror, but no money in the bank, no safety. I was squatting. Very, very dangerous and no fun at all. And having to realise what I thought were jolly little fun music hall ditties, God Save the Queen, Anarchy, were taken as literal war.
So
then so I decided, oh, right, they are, and I defend that.
So how do you look back on that time, then? So it wasn't the happy hurricane?
I look back on it as, thank God I've improved with age. You know, there's nothing about me that me then would be ashamed of. But there's plenty about me now that would be shamed about him then.
Right, like what in particular?
What, being seen in public with septic spots was unacceptable.
John, it's been a pleasure, is all I can say.
Do you know a dentist? This fell out.
I voted for John Major because I hated Chelsea so much. Yeah. He's a Chelsea supporter. It did them no good, did it? Are you going to let me finish or are you going to be smug? You ain't changed shit. You ain't changed shit. You are shit. 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 All right? And you tell me I've got no right to fucking talk about this country. I've done more for England than you ever fucking could. Ever. Ever. And I love my Queen, by the way. And I miss having sex with the Queen Mother. Hello, poor people.
How are you feeling? How's the day been?
Jet lagged, because, I mean, flew in yesterday, had to do rehearsals, had to do a ton of press, have to talk to people. I suppose business as usual.
How did it all go over in America?
All right. 4 days rehearsal, straight into a live show, and then 2 live TV bits, all crammed into a week. All right. You know, it is what it is. If you're going to walk into this kind of occupation, you know, being honest, you're going to have to face up to these schedules. And you're going to have to do it drug-free too. Doherty, just in case you go there.
What do you think of our Pete? You a fan of his music?
What, Paedophile Townsend? Oh, he's super.
And how about Pete Doherty?
Do you not know that the Libertines supported the Sex Pistols at Crystal Palace? How could I not love the bloke?
And you liking Baby Shambles as well?
Don't know who that is.
Where do you prefer gigging, in America?
Can you slow down a bit? I'm still halfway across the Atlantic. Wait a minute there.
I'm sorry.
Come on, you sound like a bag lady.
Where do you prefer performing, America or the UK?
It doesn't really matter, but there are specific towns. It's not about countries that are stunning. Glasgow always. I mean, with Public Image there, it's never been anything but a joy to behold. Manchester, oh yeah. London, Prague, odd places. Chile was absolutely amazing. We just did 1 gig there. I can't remember the town. It's the capital city, I know. And the hotel we stayed at was like directly opposite the military barracks. Loved it because the crowds were so... I mean, to be a punk in Chile is a seriously hardcore thing to be. And so you've got to give it up to them. You know, to waltz around there with a Mohique hairdo is really taking chances, you know. Our civil liberties are jeopardised throughout the world. So it's unification is my motto. You know, working class everywhere.
And how about these nights we've got coming up in Brixton? How much are you looking forward to doing them? What would people expect?
Well, it started out as 1 gig, you know. We thought, oh yeah, why not? Never mind the bollocks, right? And the demand was so enormous, it went to 5, just like that. And that's 25,000 people in London alone. Well, we've played to bigger crowds than that here, but we didn't think it would be like that. Didn't think like it'd be quite so demanding. But it's all right. It's all right.
Why didn't you think people would be excited and want to come and see you?
Why would I think it? You know, I don't know what the expectation is. It's just a shame, really, because, I mean, you should have been learning from us 30 years ago. The idea is to be honest in this world and to stop lying and ticket touting and ripping each other off and rolling over under Margaret Thatcher to Tony Blair, you know, with a mediocre John Major in between and God knows who else who. You've sold yourselves down the river here. Maybe the Sex Pistols is about right for you. You know, you need a good, serious kick in the butt yet again. Got to wake up and stop this stuff. The only way to do it is to stand up and say what's what. That's what a Sex Pistols song is. That's what everything I've done in music for 30 years is about. Tell it like it is. It really ain't so difficult.
Do you think that there are any...
Except for everyone else in this industry.
Do you think that there are any bands now, like the newer bands that are...
Excuse me, I'm having a sip of shandy.
I'm jealous of your shandy.
Red Stripe, very fine beer. Her new sponsor, please.
Do you think there are any bands at the moment who are doing what you were all about, you know, speaking the truth?
Bands? I've been banned all my life.
Like, you know,
no, I'm not. I'm not going to do this, and I'll tell you why. All right, the last 5 years in particular, there's been an awful lot of bands that started. You know, because I'm freely I've been very free about the music I like, which is a lot of music and a lot of groups, a lot of solo, this, that, and the other, a lot of things in all fields. My tastes, I hate to use the word, but it somehow describes it Catholic, which means all across the board. But every time I've done that, they've come back and wanted to use my quote in their book and somehow put a twist in it that I was influenced by them. And that's unfortunate and horrible, because it's not truth. Because this is me. Everything I've done in music, I'm not studious, but I do collect records almost like a librarian, because I just love all of it. But I don't copy any of it. And to try and implicate me in some kind of conspiracy, like imitate a fraud, fake shadow of something else, is despisable. It really annoys me, and so I shut up now about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Just moving on to Guitar Hero for a second. Guitar Hero, I've had Guitar Hero nights with my friends. I'm rubbish at Guitar Hero.
Thank you. It's great.
It's amazing, but I can't play it.
It doesn't matter though, does it? It's still a giggle. I play it with kids, right? My brother's kids in LA. They first turned me onto it. And then this offer came in. I jumped through hoops. I thought, oh, look at all this money they're going to throw at us. Yeah, it's okay. We'll give you access to the masters. Lo and behold, right, which is, basically the story of my life. The record company can't find the original masters. So we have to go and re-record the 2 songs. So any money we had, we spent re-recording. But we stuck with it because we liked it. And it was good. And Glenn was on tour with his own band. I can't remember their name. I don't think anyone can. But me, Steve and Paul, which is how we recorded Nevermind the Bollocks in the first place, just went in and whacked it just like that. Sounds different, sounds tougher and harder, but at the same time, all right. Oh my God, is that the Paddies in the background? Can you hear that? Yeah. Oh, they're drunk, silly old fool. You tell them to shut the fuck up. Sorry, the Fouquet up. Shut the Madame Fouquet up.
Now listen, you must be amazing at Guitar Hero, surely.
No, awful. I can't play guitar. Steve Jones, who did play the guitar for Guitar Hero, he can't play the game at all. He's absolute rubbish.
See, people get competitive with it.
Yeah, but he wrote the guitar lines himself because that's him playing on it, and he can't play it. Because you get excited, you get carried away. That's the fun. So don't trash yourself, all right? Because it's like this. When you gig, every night's different. It's never the same. I don't care how tight you rehearse or any of that nonsense. Every night is a direct response to the situation you're in and the crowd around you. That's what a true performance is.
So I should blame my friends for the fact that I'm bad at Guitar Hero because they weren't a good crowd.
They should blame you, any way you want to look at it. Boo, disappointment, boo.
So do we have...
Do you understand? Our situations can affect it. And why not? Don't take it so serious. What on earth are you going to achieve by being good at that? Not a lot.
That night you'd feel good.
Not a lot. It's a game. There's a difference. This is real life. That's a game.
So we have Guitar Hero though to thank for the fact that you guys went back into the studio together.
No, you don't at all. No. That was because we wanted to commit. We did that off our own back. They did not coerce us. And believe me, the money weren't that great. No money in the world would be that great to coerce us into doing anything at all. I mean, if anything is true about us, that is, you cannot buy us.
What have you guys got planned next after you do these 5 nights in Brixton? What's the plan?
Selling out for 22 million. Pounds. Not them euro things. Pounds, because that's good against the dollar at the moment. Plans, nothing. Who knows? What's life like? Look at me. Do you think I've planned my career over the last 30 years? I mean, it's just, you know, it's an absolute tragedy. I've ended up something of a genius. Believe me, I ain't got no idea why.
You must have had a bit of an
Icon? Am I an icon? That's what they say now. Bleed, no, I suppose it's better than being a minivan.
Are you going to be watching the new series of I'm a Celebrity Gets Me?
No, I didn't watch the first one or the one I was in.
You could have, didn't you, in it?
No, who cares? There's only a TV show, innit? You know, the trouble is that I somehow seem to have set a precedent there, that now people they seem to want to be joining it to compete being me. You know, Janet Street Porter, Malcolm the Wanker McLaren. You know, they want to try to outdo me. Well, you can't. You can't. I'm just me. I'm Johnny. I was born this way. I can't help it. I'm not quite well in the head. You know, why do you need to be like me? I mean, you know, keep being awful. Go on.
What made
you know what I mean? It's wrong. You can't say this to me. What?
What made you decide to go
No, never said that. No idea.
No? You just on a whim, did you decide to go into the jungle?
No, it wasn't a whim. Truthfully, it was, I thought the biggest risk I'd ever take. I had boggle going on leading up to Christmas, and then this thing. I'd rejected it the year before, just out of hand, and then it kept waving, and then the temptation came in that it was going to raise almost about 300,000 for charity work, and I could pick the charity. Right, just by attaching myself to it, so I did. The risk was that I'd be seen as copping out, you know, and becoming, you know, I don't know, one of them like daytime TV B-celebrity people that do anything, you know, quick on the draw or whatever those game shows are. But I didn't do any of that. I'm lucky. I just kept to being myself. It was really, really hard. It was the first time ever, oddly enough, and being in the limelight most of my life, that I became well adjusted to cameras on me 24 hours a day. It's the most astounding thing, that in your brain you suddenly click that, why worry? What the hell? I mean, the wildlife could kill me at any second, you know, and I'm going to be vain about it. It was excellent. So applause in many ways, because I went on then to do several nature programs that I really, really enjoyed. And I'm fit for any challenge now. I mean, that's a great thing at half a century young to be able to say about yourself, that change is possible. But not values. I will never drop values. They are consistent factors in everything I do, not morals. Morals are religious. All right, George Bush is religious or irreligious, if you know, from my point of view. Just keep to being yourself. You're all right, all of you.
Would that be your tip for any of our...
Heaven is on this earth. Don't look for nothing that don't exist. And if it does, you can well wait for it. But you don't need to make trouble amongst ourselves here. We don't need all this war and killing. It's been the Sex Pistols' motto right from the start. Yet we've been like wrongly accused of being violent or filthy foul-mouthed punks. No, there is no such thing as filth in language. They're just words. They're just misused by many people. Sometimes they can be absolutely used in the most ironical way. Well, I'll give you an example. In I'm a Celebrity, when what's the two midget comedians that... Nice people. But they came up and they went, oh, John, the people put you back in. I went, you fucking cunts. Now, only 3 people in Britain complained about that statement. That wasn't me insulting anyone. That was said in the nicest possible way, with words that could be conceived as vilely and insultingly misused. I used them well. Irony. More of this, please, and less of the ignorant twats. God's a fucking cunt. Fucking hell. Well, if you can fucking hell, I'll go there in the morning.
Oh, good.
It's true, though. Hello.
Which of our,
Sorry, I'm back to being a pub boy.
Which of today's celebrities do you kind of despise, and do you think don't have
I don't
the
think I
morals?
really despise anybody. I like to tease them. And then there's been a few deaths recently. Joe Strummer, for instance, I used to love to take the wheeze out of him. And then he died, and I miss him dearly. But Joe knew. It's just people around love to twist it into something else. There's nothing really hurtful or poisonous in me, deep down inside. I don't think so.
And are sort of like modern musicians.
Hold on, there's a list, it's just running. Oh, there's a lot of people. I'll take all that back. No, that's not me burping.
Impressive, do you know?
No.
Can you make yourself burp with that bit?
Those are jazz tones. I'm a singer.
I see. Can you burp without beer?
I can't fart without a Brussels sprout, so probably not.
One to work on. Finally, a really bizarre question for you. I know that it's November, but do you know what you're doing yet for Christmas?
No. When's that?
Think. In about 8
Think?
weeks.
Or what? What am I supposed to think about? That's a mug's paradise, that. That's just to rip you off your money buying useless presents for people that don't respect you for it anyway.
Do you not buy Christmas presents?
No, never have. We were too poor when we were young for that sort of thing, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since. It's like birthdays. They're all like a dilemma. You don't know what to do. Why can't you celebrate life every day? I don't need anyone to tell me any different, except, of course, you got a 9-to-5 job, then take the holidays how you can.
Brilliant, Johnny. Listen, thank you very much. That was awesome. It was really good to meet you.
God bless.
Thank
I'm
you.
really getting tired, if you don't mind. I'm jet lagged now. I'm knackered, and it's that light.
Enough.
Here we are on another London Tea Time show with the man.
From beautiful downtown Hoxton.
John, be on your best behaviour. Tea Time London shows. Got to be good. You're back, boy. You're back with your tour. 5 dates, Brixton Academy.
Yeah, which is a laugh, because we were only supposed to do one, but by popular demand, it spread into 5. That's 25,000 people in London. And then Manchester we couldn't exclude, because that's an important town for punk, most definite. And of course, the ever so lovely Glasgow. And that should be enough for now.
Tickets sold out in 15 minutes, I think, for the first 3 shows. That's why you kept sticking on more and more.
Well, I mean, you've got to watch the ticket touts and stuff too. I mean, we've been keeping an eye on that and running, ticket sales through our website. Because I don't like that touting. It mugs up the whole business.
See, it was all so civilised at that
outside
point
now,
over a
some of
nice
the
cup of
small bars
coffee,
are
but he
there,
was
to
prone
pay
to turning at any
£95
stage
to see
once he
us.
got
I
bored with my
that's money that
questions.
How are you boys all getting on at the moment?
We get on all right, we always did. But we're extra specially friendly at the moment, and I can't figure out why.
Isn't that wrong? Shouldn't there be a bit of friction on
Yeah,
that?
I'd like to think so.
A bit of fighting on stage, you want a bit of that?
No, who knows? I mean, we've yet to get up there. I mean, we've just done one gig in LA, and we worked really well. I mean, it was a hell hot house, it was, but we struggled on through it. It's not bad at 50, half a century young, looking forward to the next half.
And then I lost him. He turned. I really shouldn't have asked him about being on I'm a Celebrity, or whether now he was in character as Johnny Rotten, or just being plain old John Lydon.
It's the same person as ever. I thought you should have learnt that on I'm a Celebrity, that's just me.
And in hindsight, I shouldn't have asked him about the modern day version of him, Pete Doherty.
I'm a bit bored being asked about those kind of people. To think that it's clever to take drugs and then brag about it in the press, I mean, that's not clever.
And yes, maybe it was a fatal mistake to challenge John to a staring competition. Hey, I thought it would be fun.
And I look into people's eyes. I want to know if they're lying to me or being deceitful or telling the truth. So that's the stare.
I was going for a stare off, see if I could...
No, now you're being an right?
Now I'm being a Grundy.
You want to stare off, there's 3 steps there. Take them, they'll lead you straight to heaven.
Just there?
Go for it.
The bar
I'm
up there.
leaving you on a jet plane. I've got jet lag. I think he's
John Lydon, thank you very much.